The awakening, 500 years later.
The first sensation was cold, not the numbing cold of the cryochamber, but the sharp bite of recycled air filling lungs that hadn't drawn breath in 5 centuries. Dr. Sarah Chen's eyes fluttered open to unfamiliar ceiling panels that seemed to pulse with their own inner light.
"Easy now," came a gentle voice. "Your neural pathways are still reintegrating. The disorientation will pass."
Sarah turned her head slowly, her neck protesting the movement. A woman stood beside her revival bed, but something was off about her appearance. Her skin had an almost luminescent quality, and her eyes held flecks of silver that seemed to shift in the light.
"I'm Dr. Zara Okafor," the woman said, placing a hand on Sarah's shoulder. The touch felt oddly warm, almost energized. "I'm what you might call a biological enhancement specialist. Welcome to the year 2000.
As the other members of their group, 12 researchers who had volunteered for the experimental cryopreservation program in 2030, slowly awakened in adjacent chambers, Dr. Okafor began the orientation that would reshape their understanding of everything they thought they knew about human civilization.
The world you left behind changed more rapidly than anyone could have predicted. She began, gesturing to what appeared to be empty air. Suddenly, 3-dimensional images materialized around them, showing Earth as it appeared in 2030, then beginning a slow transformation. The climate crisis you were facing reached its peak around 2045, but humanity's response was extraordinary.
The holographic Earth showed vast desert regions suddenly blooming green.
Atmospheric processors, massive machines that could convert carbon dioxide directly into oxygen and solid carbon, were deployed globally by 2055. But that was just the beginning.
Sarah struggled to sit up, her scientific mind racing despite her physical weakness.
How is that possible? The energy requirements alone. Fusion power. Dr. Okafor smiled. Perfect in 2038, just 8 years after you entered cryosleep. But even that became obsolete by 2000 when we learned to harvest energy directly from quantum fluctuations in space-time itself. We call it zero-point energy, and it's effectively limitless.
Another team member, physicist Dr. Marcus Webb, managed to croak out a question.
What about space exploration? We were just beginning to establish a Mars colony.
The holographic display shifted to show not just Mars, but dozens of worlds orbiting distant stars.
Mars was fully terraformed by 2150. We have permanent settlements on 43 worlds across 17 star systems. Faster-than-light travel became possible in 2029 when we discovered how to fold space-time using controlled gravitational waves.
The images were breathtaking. Cities that seemed to grow like living organisms, their buildings reaching impossibly high into alien skies. Ships that looked more like flowing sculptures than mechanical constructs moved between worlds with graceful ease.
But the changes to humanity itself have been perhaps the most profound. Dr. Okafor continued, and Sarah noticed again the subtle differences in their host's appearance. Disease was eliminated entirely by 2156 through programmable nanobots that work symbiotically with our immune systems. Aging became optional in 2023. Most of us choose to maintain ourselves at what you would consider peak physical condition, though we can age naturally if we prefer.
Dr. Webb's eyes widened.
Are you saying death is rare by natural causes, but not impossible? We've learned that consciousness itself can be transferred between bodies, or even exist in purely digital form. Some humans choose to spend decades as pure information, exploring realms of thought and mathematics that require no physical form. Others prefer to remain embodied but enhanced, stronger, faster, more resilient than baseline humans.
The revelations came in waves.
Artificial intelligence had evolved beyond their wildest dreams, becoming true partners in human civilization, rather than servants or threats. The AIs had developed their own culture, philosophy, and even art forms that existed in dimensions human minds couldn't directly perceive, but could experience through neural interface.
What about war? Conflict? Asked Dr. Elena Vasquez, the group's sociologist.
Dr. Okafor's expression grew thoughtful.
The last war between human factions ended in 2087. When energy became unlimited and we could create matter from pure information, scarcity, the root of most conflicts, simply ceased to exist. We've encountered 3 other intelligent species among the stars, and our relationships with them have been complex, but ultimately peaceful. They each had their own solutions to the problems of scarcity and mortality.
She gestured again, and the air filled with images of beings that were clearly not human, crystalline entities that existed partially in higher dimensions, vast collective intelligences that spanned entire gas giant planets, and sleek, ethereal creatures that seemed to be made of living light.
The universe, we've learned, is far stranger and more wonderful than we imagined. We've discovered that consciousness itself appears to be a fundamental force, like gravity or electromagnetism. This has opened up entirely new fields of science: consciousness engineering, temporal mechanics, reality optimization.
Dr. Chen felt overwhelmed.
But what about being human? What does that even mean now?
Dr. Okafor smiled warmly.
That's perhaps the most beautiful part. Despite all these changes, the core of what makes us human has remained constant. We still love, create, explore, and dream. We still tell stories, form relationships, and seek meaning. We've simply expanded the canvas on which we paint our lives. She paused the display and looked at each of the awakening sleepers in turn. You have choices to make. You can remain as you are. We can support your biological needs indefinitely. You can gradually adapt, choosing which enhancements appeal to you. Some people take centuries to decide. Others choose to experience everything at once. What do most people do with their time? Asked Dr. James Okafor, their former computer scientist. Everything? Dr. Okafor laughed. Some spend decades mastering art forms that require manipulation of matter at the quantum level. Others explore the far reaches of space, discovering new worlds and new forms of life. Many dedicate themselves to what we call deep science, understanding the fundamental nature of reality itself. We've learned that our universe is just one layer in an infinite cascade of realities.
The images shifted again, showing impossible vistas, cities floating in space that existed partially in other dimensions, gardens where the plants were living mathematical equations, workshops where artists sculpted with time itself.
And some, she continued, choose to become something else entirely. We've had humans who decided to become pure energy, others who merged their consciousness with artificial intelligences, and some who chose to become the guiding spirits of entire worlds, helping lesser civilizations evolve and grow.
Dr. Webb struggled to process it all.
But don't people become lost? Without struggle, without limitation? What drives anyone to do anything? Curiosity. Dr. Okafor replied immediately. The universe has become infinitely more mysterious as we've learned more about it. Every question answered reveals 10 new ones. We've discovered that reality itself is far more malleable than we thought, that consciousness and matter interact in ways we're still exploring. Some humans spend their entire extended lives just trying to understand a single aspect of quantum consciousness interaction.
She gestured once more, and the chamber filled with swirling galaxies, but these weren't made of stars and planets. They were composed of pure thought, mathematical concepts given form. living ideas that danced through dimensions the human eye could barely perceive.
We've also discovered that time itself isn't linear. Some humans choose to explore the past, not just observing it, but experiencing it fully. Others investigate potential futures, helping guide humanity's development across multiple probability streams.
The 12 awakened sleepers sat in stunned silence for several minutes, absorbing the magnitude of what they had learned. Finally, Dr. Chen spoke up.
What happened to the people we knew? Our families, friends?
Dr. Okafor's expression grew gentle.
Many chose life extension and are still alive, but they've changed and grown in ways you might not recognize. Others lived full, natural lives and chose to pass on. But we've preserved their memories, their personalities, their contributions to human knowledge. If you wish, you can interact with perfect simulations of them, or even experience their actual memories as if they were your own.
She paused.
There's something else you should know. Your decision to enter cryosleep wasn't random. You were selected not just for preservation, but because analysis of historical patterns suggested that people from your era, from your particular moment in human development, would be crucial for solving a problem we're facing now.
This got everyone's attention.
What kind of problem? Dr. Webb asked. We're approaching what our philosophers call the transcendence threshold. Humanity is on the verge of evolving into something that might no longer be recognizably human. Some see this as our destiny, the natural progression of consciousness itself. Others worry that we'll lose something essential about ourselves in the process.
The holograms showed humans who had become beings of pure energy, their thoughts visible as cascading streams of light, alongside others who had chosen to remain biological but had integrated so thoroughly with AI that the distinction between human and artificial intelligence had blurred beyond recognition.
We need perspectives from people who remember what it was like to be purely human, to face mortality, scarcity, and limitation. Your insights might help us choose our path forward wisely.
Dr. Veskers leaned forward.
And if we choose not to help, if we just want to exist, then you exist, Dr. Okafor said simply. Choice is the one thing that has remained secret throughout all our changes. No one is forced to evolve, to enhance, or to contribute. Some humans have chosen to live simple lives in preserved environments that replicate various periods of history. Others have created entirely new ways of being that we never imagined.
She stood and moved to a wall that suddenly became transparent, revealing a vista that took their breath away. They were clearly in orbit around Earth, but the planet below bore little resemblance to the world they had left. The continents were laced with structures that seemed to grow rather than being built, and the oceans teemed with floating cities that moved like living creatures.
But I hope you'll engage with what we've become, she continued. Your perspectives from the early 21st century represent a unique viewpoint in human history, the last generation to face existential threats to our species, the first to dream of becoming something more than human. You understand both limitation and possibility in ways that we've almost forgotten.
As the 12 sleepers contemplated their incredible situation, Dr. Okafor made one final gesture.
The space around them filled with gentle music, not heard but felt directly by their minds, and images of human achievement across 5 centuries. The first fusion reactor coming online, the last hospital closing because disease had been conquered, the first human consciousness successfully transferred to a digital substrate, the discovery of faster-than-light travel, first contact with alien intelligence, the creation of the first artificial reality where the laws of physics could be rewritten at will. Take your time, she said softly. You have literally all the time in the universe to decide who you want to become. The future is waiting for you to help write it. As she spoke, Each of the 12 felt something they hadn't experienced since awakening. Hope. Not just personal hope, but hope for humanity itself, and for the incredible journey that lay ahead in a universe that had